Hiya, I'm Luna, and think you might not be able to tell, but I am fat. I know, that's quite the revelation. However, I don't think a thin person would have a do-rag like mine. So you should be able to, jokes aside, be able to tell that pretty easily. I am last weighed at about 305 pounds. And of course, when you get to a certain size, you're going to look into different communities. Some will look more into those binge eating, sort of mukbang type content, and then continue to gain. While others, like myself, will pull towards more of the my 600 pound life sort of deal. So to start, specifically, I've been watching Shaun of Steel. He is very great at this, and while I haven't gotten to anywhere close to the 600 pound size, it makes it really nice to have someone who has and is able to go through these episodes discussing it in that sort of context. I would recommend him. Anyone who wants to watch the show maybe again, or even if it's your first time. Though, going to the show itself, I think there are a few major problems with what is being shown, how it's presented. I think a lot of it comes down to what I'll call a small data aspect. Now, if you know me, I am interested in data and how it's handled. I have my master's degree in computer science, so I'm really into and have experience with digging into all these different issues. And on top of that, I personally like to dig more into the smaller data, which is very different from the industry, which tends to look into getting lists and lists of people, one entry in a database for every person, when sometimes you really just gotta look into the smaller aspect. And in this case, the small aspect the doctor now is neglecting is maintenance calories. You see, when it comes to maintenance calories, there's a lot that goes into it. The most important factor to consider here is that based on how much exercise you're doing, how much weight you actually have, you're going to burn calories differently. This site on me specifically used the Mifflin St. Jeor formula to calculate it. I hope I pronounced that right. However, but by doing so, you can get an idea of, even without anything else, this is how many calories you will need in order to not lose weight. Going below that, it would be usually small, but it is a weight loss. Now, to define the terms within here, there are 5 specifically that are very important in this calculation. To start, they use sex here. And while, yes, the biological sex is kind of a factor and can be signified for most people in this way, it actually comes down more to the hormonal. See, estradiol has you hold on to fat. Well, testosterone will make you want to burn fat just at a chemical level. This is shown very well within the dietary guidelines presented on page 140. They create a whole table which, based off of new research, is way better fine-grained for displaying weight loss, how many calories you need in a day. And well, if we scroll down here, even like 18, you can see a clear difference between the calorie needs for men and women. In fact, even at no exercise, low exercise, women eat a whole lot less than men. And you'll also notice that even at rest, the calorie needs for men actually outshine the normal 2,000 calorie diet you think of. So in case you know someone that's always a twig so thin, no matter what he eats, this likely is a factor at play. On top of that, if you are a trans woman who used to be that stick thin guy, but now are having a hard time keeping the pounds off, this in itself is a huge factor that could be causing it too. So that being said, I will scroll down to show the current maintenance calories of I put in my own information here. And well, 2625, if I switch that to male, 2824 for maintenance calories. That is a very significant difference. Next is height, which isn't as complex, but the taller you are, the more or less calories you need. See, if I even switch this 1 inch to 5'10", it goes up from 2625 to 2644 calories a day, which isn't as big of a difference as the sex category, but it's still a major factor within this. Next is current weight, because the more heavy you are, the more it's going to take to maintain that weight. So say I change this to even 300 flat, pull it down from 2625 to 2598. Even that 5-pound difference has changed the maintenance calorie calculation. Now switching this back. Next is age. Of course, different people at different ages are going to have different hormone levels, mostly. That's the biggest thing here. So even if I switch from 26 to 27, the 2625 goes down to 2619. Of course, this is going to be a lot bigger when you look at older people, especially the extremely elderly. Because even if you look into the chart here, oh wait, where'd it go? There we go. Going to the 60-year-olds, it just has gone down. Even as it goes to the next page, 76 and up, guys to 2,001 sedentary, women to 1,600. So that is a change there. Oh, I may have pushed the button accidentally there. That is a major difference that can change up this whole calculation. Now let's look at the physical activity area. For this, I was leaving it at little to no exercise, because that is the consideration we usually make when it comes to the My 600 Pound Life crew, who can't really do exercise. However, if I put this more towards my own sort of exercise level. Every day I have to walk my doggo to make sure she, gets to go out, go poop, whatnot. And I have a hard time selecting this in terms of what I actually do, because I do these longer walks, usually 30 to 40 minutes every morning with her, because that's what she likes to do. For now, I'll say maybe light to moderate, but I could see different people selecting different physical definitions based off of these. Now, if I switch this from low to no to moderate, it immediately jumps up from the 2,625 to 3,500. If I look at light exercise, that's already at 3,063. So exercise is indeed a factor within these calculations. A major one, in fact. Now, one more thing before I get back to the my 600-pound life context. This question, have you lost weight recently? This is not directly going into the calculation. However, if you push yes, you're going to get this blip telling you that you will need fewer calories to maintain your current body mass. That's more because, well, if you have been losing weight, your body is going to get more efficient at trying to keep the weight, because, when we were in Unga Bunga times, that was very, very necessary. Otherwise, you would die. However, as I would recommend you reading the whole information chart over here that I alluded to in the beginning. However, while we'll not put anything into the calculation, and as that blip says, there are too many factors at hand to change what the calories here are going to do, but be sure, if you are going to use this as sort of a small data way to lose weight, like making the maintenance weight a calorie ceiling for you every day, and you're doing all the math and whatnot, be sure to keep in mind that when you're losing weight, it becomes harder to lose weight. Which is weird, but that is a thing. So now that you have an idea of what this means and what this is, let's go back to the my 600-pound context. Say we have two different people of the same age with little to no exercise and exactly 600 pounds. We're going to use this as a basic idea to show this off, but you know that there's been people within the show that are much higher weight, some lower, at different heights, but assuming all is equal, a woman at 600 pounds needs over 4,000 calories to maintain that weight. And a guy at 600 pounds needs around 4,400, almost 4,500 calories to maintain that 600-pound weight. Let's bump it up a little more to 650 pounds. There's already a big jump to 4,700 for a guy. And the 4,500 for a girl. And you see, there's already a huge difference there. In fact, let's bring it up even higher. 800 pounds. We've seen that in the show before. 5,000 calories a day. Let's put it up for a guy. 5,500 calories a day. Just to maintain that. Now, of course, this algorithm, just like any, may have problems. But no matter what, we are not showing, by not showing this sort of information, what the maintenance calories mean, what you need to do, you don't really have a good bar of how to make progress. And seeing this data, seeing the numbers like this in the small data context, it really opens your eyes. And I bet it would be a lot more helpful for some of these people who are failing, because they're not really seeing this sort of data, that's not being emphasized to them as how important it is. Now let's also think about this. Let's pull up a calculator real quick. Say we have this 5,514 calorie per day need. And you're on Dr. Now's diet. Let's say you take exactly 1,200 calories a day. That is 4,000 calories of excess. That is to say, with 300 calories around there being 1 pound, with Dr. Now's diet, you're essentially losing a pound a day. And now, as for the second reason why we should know this, why this should be emphasized, is for the case of us, the viewer. Because most of us aren't at that 600-pound spot. We're thinking about how we can lose weight and using them as a vector to have an idea about it. But if we go back to my information, I'll put the exercise back to where it was. I'll say moderate. The 3,500. If I were to go with Dr. Now's diet, well, if I had access to it, of course, and was following it diligently, that's not even the same pound per day. And I forgot the calculator wasn't up. That's not even the same 3,000 calories per day needed to lose a pound per day. And within a week, that's maybe like, at best, 5 pounds. Compare that to this other person here. I'll put the information again just so we can have it. I'll go for, well, let's just go for the exact 600 pounds. Let's compare also to a woman as well, because we're both women here. That's still a pound per day, times 7 days in a week. You see there's a huge difference when it comes to the weight component here. And especially if you're looking at... No, let's go back to that extreme case. Those 800-pounders, those 800-pound guys, if I remember right, one of them was 6'2". Can't remember the age, so I'll go with 30 here. Minus the 1,200 per day. Times 7 for 1 week. Divide by 3,000 because that's the number of calories per pound, just about. And that's up to 10 per week. In this comparison, what this shows is by us watching this, we are getting a not very good ability to judge our own weight loss if we are using the 600-pounders as a vector. Because even with the same diet, these people are going to be losing a whole lot more. And I'm talking from personal experience with that one, because I felt when I was going down from 327, the major weight loss I was having, I thought wasn't enough, because even if I could think of it mathematically in the back of my head, there were these people getting crazy weight loss, and because I wasn't matching them, I did not feel I was doing all too well. And that factor, the audience factor, along with the factor of the actual 600-pound people, by not giving us any idea of maintenance calories, how much you need to eat in order to stay at a weight, let alone go under that, is significantly pulling the value out of the show in general. Now that that issue has been described, there's another point I want to point out using this episode, which Sean has labeled the most foolish patient. Despite this, I think not just Sean himself. Sean tends to be really good about this thing, but Sean, as well as Mark's family within this episode, really, really did him dirty. I'm going to play this clip to show that off.
Alright, I'm heading back to the local clinic with my family right now in order to get weighed once again, and this is a big one. I made a choice to go out on my own, to continue with my weight loss journey without the surgery.
What do you think you weigh?
Anything over 220 and I'm disappointed.
I think you're 3 times 220. I would go with that.
And it's been challenging, but ironically enough, the most difficult part has not been the diet or the exercise.
It's probably the dad being a bit of a dickhead, right? He's kind of a dickhead. He takes, low blows left and right. You don't need to do that to a guy who's talking about how his self-esteem was destroyed at the start. I think he understands, but I think at the same time, he is annoying, because he won't do what he should do.
I think this was the most important part to show off, because not only Sean has pointed out the dad has been being, quote, a dickhead, but by not only Sean pointing to him as the most foolish patient, but also to the people around him being so rude to him for wanting to go without the surgery. I think they failed him. You see, surgery is a big, big commitment. It should only really be done when the other factors just aren't lining up. And with the parents, as well as Dr. Now saying, oh, this is statistically unlikely to happen, they are pushing Mark, who wants to be able to do it himself, into this pit of perhaps disgrace that by the end of the episode makes him start gaining a little again. Now, there's also one more factor to this, and that just in general is the mental health component. Now, of course, in these episodes, Dr. Now has in the past gotten people to therapy, gotten them to talk and whatnot. But talk therapy really isn't for everyone. As much PTSD and whatnot someone has, and that's talking from experience. I hope you've seen my episode talking about my experience with PTSD, along with the complex regional pain syndrome, spasms, and whatnot that stem from that. But just talking, not doing a good job keeping up with the medication component, which is very big, isn't going to do all that much. Now, I have recommended in the past trying to find yourself not a therapist, but a psych that also will talk with you, as some of them do. That way you're working with it means to an end, so to speak. So that when you are doing the talking, you feel like it could potentially be going somewhere, instead of just paying for nothing to happen besides the talk. And on top of that, I'm going to bring up this video by Dr. K. This is probably one of the best videos out there, and talks about how ADHD, which is a mental health component, has a reduced reward to it when eating food, doing exercise, and whatnot. So if you do not cut off the stem of the ADHD, for example, you're going to get the reduced reward, and you're not going to be able to do this sort of weight loss as well, because your reward pathways are just not what the regular person has. I recommend watching Dr. K's video for more information on the topic, but that's just one example. And then, of course, besides the ADHD portion, there's also, the depression component, the anxiety component, the PTSD component. And on top of that, when looking into, I bring those up all three together as one example for a specific reason, that being that a lot of those medications as well also have a component of wanting you to eat more, do some binging. Like, for example, I have found that I was started on quetiapine pretty recently for a sort of paranoid anxiety that comes up and links up with the sort of memories I have around the PTSD. And what I've found with quetiapine is that it's making me eat more than I would otherwise. So I'm probably going to talk with my psych about switching off that one. However, because that paranoid anxiety portion only pops up at certain times, you kind of have to be able to already be with a psych, and if you can predict it to a point where they can actually see what's going on, and if it's in cycles, maybe move around the appointment times. That way they can actually know what's happening. Because at least with me, if I wasn't actively within that state, I would have mostly no memory of it. So being not just with a therapist, but with a psych, looking into medications, having those discussions about which ones are good, which ones may make the binging and the eating worse, are very important. And I think Dr. Now is failing by not just pushing people, well, to talk therapy, but to see a psych as well, make more discussions about their medications, and for the people who don't want to do medications, perhaps discuss different ones that may be good. Because while I personally think the medication aspect is so crucial, I understand the hesitancy that some people have. In fact, I think that is the road that you should always go down before trying to force surgery. Even if you are bigger, or even in the 600-pound range, like Mark in this case, that is just personally what I think is going to lead to a lot of those failures. Now, just to recap, there's the psych component, there is the maintenance calorie component, as well as discussing maintenance calories, not just from a patient standpoint, but from a viewer standpoint. So I think by not including these in the level that they really should be, Dr. Now's not doing the best thing for his patients or his audience. Though, I'm not saying he's not doing anything good at all. It's really important for this to also be out there, because otherwise many of us would just fall into this loop of 600 pounds ourselves without these different people to reflect on. So I would definitely recommend checking out the show. I'd recommend talking about these things, and I would also recommend checking out Shaun of Steel. He does a really good job showing off these different components. And well, for example, factors that I specifically didn't bring up, like the fact that the keto diet can be messed up by eating a little bit of sugar, he brings that up all the time. But I didn't think that pushing that as hard as he does, for me, would do a really good job in that sense, because he lived it. I didn't. So I recommend checking him out to get that sort of side to it. And if you want more from me, maybe to discuss more weight loss content, or just medical content in general, data type content, tell me what you want to see, and in the comment section below. I thank you for watching.